Hello, everybody. I'm Sergeant Kevin Sadowski of the Milwaukee Police Department's 1st District. I currently run our community unit for District 1, and this will be our crime and safety meeting, unfortunately our second virtual meeting due to COVID, but we are still happy to deliver what's going on into District 1, and we're happy to have the neighbors, business owners, and everybody involved view this. So this will be our presentation for October of 2020 for the District 1 crime and safety meeting. The first person I'd like to introduce as one of our guest speakers is actually the commander of the 1st District, Captain James Campbell.
Thank you, Sergeant Sadowski. Hello, Milwaukee and District 1 constituents. My name is James Campbell, the captain of District 1, Milwaukee PD. I would like to welcome you all to our crime and safety meeting today. We're happy to conduct this meeting by video, but look forward to the time when we can meet face-to-face to discuss crime issues involving our great city. I took over command of District 1 on September 22nd, 2019. From the moment I arrived, we placed an emphasis on community policing and positive interactions with our citizens and police. We expanded beat patrols to include Brady Street during evening hours, Kilbourne Town West, and for special events at the Fiserv Forum before, during, and after. We have had beats on Wisconsin Avenue, North Avenue, Farwell Avenue, Downer, and Old World 3rd Street that are rotating. We have almost doubled our face-to-face business checks and more than tripled our checks on county buses. We stress the importance of professionalism, ethical conduct, and quality investigations while remaining fair and impartial. We work with stakeholders in Milwaukee County to help address the chronic homeless situation in the downtown area. We assisted in transitioning numerous people to sustainable shelter during the coldest months and continue to work with private entities to make transition packages of supplies needed for the move. We work with community leaders to identify needy families from our communities and collectively ensure that they were not forgotten at Christmas. I'm proud to represent the District 1 officers and community members. We look forward to serving you in the second half of 2020 and beyond. We appreciate the support showed during the COVID-19 pandemic and the unrest. Be well and may God bless you.
Thank you, Captain Campbell. All right, we will move on to our next guest speaker. It's somebody that your community liaison officer, Officer Carlos Felix, and myself work very closely with. It is ADA Kelly Hedge, and she is going to talk to you a little bit about being the specific district attorney that works in District 1, and she's going to kind of describe what our community-based policing looks like from District Number 1. So with that, Kelly, please.
Well, I'm Kelly Hedge. I'm the Community Prosecutor for District 1. The Community Prosecution Unit, CPU, does currently consist of 6 Assistant District Attorneys who serve Milwaukee Police Department Districts 1 through 7. As I indicated, I'm assigned to District 1, and the community prosecution position in District 1 is certainly unique in that we have a lot of resources in the downtown area, and because we have a lot of resources, we see aggressive panhandlers, homelessness, and people trying to get money from individuals who are visiting businesses, people who are employed in the downtown area, or people just visiting and maybe going to a Bucks game or here for Summerfest. So it's important to address some of these chronic nuisance individuals either by getting them housing resources and stabilizing the community, assessing any treatment needs they have, or if they're engaged in criminal behavior, to handle those situations through the criminal justice system. I do have a slide that Officer Felix is bringing up here. Again, the community prosecution has a role by taking a different approach to addressing the needs of the homeless and mentally ill who present themselves as high utilizers of law enforcement resources for medical or arrest purposes. Sometimes in the downtown area, those resources are overutilized by the same individuals. And some of these individuals are engaged in chronic nuisance behavior. You may see some of these people in the downtown area, in which if you're dining on a sidewalk at a restaurant and they come up and they keep asking for money, they may become aggressive. So people who are engaged in aggressive panhandling, disorderly conduct, public intoxication, criminal damage to property, burglaries to businesses or residents or theft, those are the individuals that I focus on, whether that is to get them treatment and look at those people through the lens of early intervention and or assessing criminogenic needs to determine whether this is somebody that needs to go through the criminal justice system in more of a traditional manner. Once somebody is charged, then what I do is I ask the court to impose geographic restrictions. I try to ensure that that individual stays out of the area in which they have been creating a disturbance. In the downtown area, we had one person that was involved in approximately 200 to 300 bike thefts. I do have him charged with incidents that occurred in District 1 as well as Marquette University, and that case is currently in the criminal justice system. I have also a geographic restriction, no contact order in place to ask the court to make sure this person stays out of the areas in which they were stealing bikes. We also had 2 people involved in catalytic converter thefts actually throughout our city. That is, again, a person that District 1 law enforcement investigated. They referred the case to me, and that is somebody, both those individuals are charged with felonies for removing of major vehicle parts. So I focus on these high-value targets, people who are heavy utilizers of police resources, and or people who may need help in the community outside of law enforcement intervention. We try to improve the quality of life for all people in the downtown area. If you need to reach out to me, Officer Felix will have our contact information up. I believe it's on the last slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Kelly. With that, I just want to mention policy from the Milwaukee Police Department. The Milwaukee Police Department welcomes any comments, questions, or concerns as it relates to our department's actions, including but certainly not limited to policies and practices concerning traffic stops, field interviews, no action encounters, and frisk. So if the general public ever has any type of question on that, please do not hesitate to call our office. Once again, as ADA Hedge had said at the end of her presentation, our contact guides will be up here. If you have any questions about any of those things, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to explain them to you. So as you can see, this is a map that is outlining District 1 in case anybody is new to the district, what that looks like. So at the very top of it is our Sector 120. So that borders the UWM neighborhood and Shorewood. Edgewood to the north comes down to just about North Avenue, and then it goes from the Milwaukee River and then all the way to Lake Michigan. Our Sector 130 falls in between, and that's North Avenue going to the south, and then excuse me, it kind of goes a little around Jackson and kind of where Prospect curves down. And then Sector 140 happens to be predominantly the downtown area business district of Milwaukee. And it goes by natural boundaries such as the freeway. So our western boundary is about 10th Street, eastern boundary to the lake. South we go down to, I believe it is Pittsburgh, Florida Street, and then Pleasant and Water Street to the north boundary. So those are the 3 boundaries that make up District 1, but that is overall the whole of our district. Up here, in case you have any questions about the aldermen and women of our 1st district, this is actually their representative districts: Alderman Kovac of District 3, Alderman Robert Ballman of District 4, Alderwoman Malele Coggs of District 6, and Alderman Jose Perez of District number 12. So those are their numbers. I will definitely tell you that if you have comments or concerns, you can also reach out to Officer Felix and I if it has something with, you'd like to see maybe traffic enforcement in the area or a chronic nuisance that happens to be going on in the neighborhood, you can feel free to reach out to your alderman, but we can also accept those type of complaints as well. So with that, Officer Felix, I'll let kind of break down the crime that's going on in specific neighborhoods.
Thank you, Sergeant Sadowski, and thank you, Kelly. Again, Sergeant Sadowski broke down the squad areas. We'll start off with the crime trends that are occurring in Squad 120's area, which is our northernmost squad area. As you can see, for aggravated assaults between July and September 28th, the crime trends that occurred for aggravated assaults are in these general areas. We had a couple that were reported up towards Locust and a little clustered down towards North Avenue. The East Locust, 2 of these reported aggravated assaults were domestic violence related, so known suspects. In the 2100 block of East Locust, victims were sitting in a vehicle when they were approached by a black male, believed to be 20 to 25 years of age, 5'8", short braided hair, wearing a gray hooded jacket and blue jeans. They observed the subject pull out a firearm and approach the vehicle. The victims then drove off. No one was hurt in that incident. In the 2300 block of East North Avenue, lower quarter right there, 2 of those were domestic violence related. I'm sorry, 1 of those were domestic violence related. The second one was a battery to a police officer while dealing with a suspect at St. Mary's Hospital. In Squad 120's area for auto thefts between July 1st and September 28th, we had 47 auto thefts reported. Out of the 47 thefts, there were 11 taken with keys. And you can see that there's really no cluster. It's pretty spread out throughout that squad area. In Squad 120's area between that time period, burglaries that occurred in that area. This is a mix of business, garage, and residential burglaries. Out of the 28 reported for that time period, 4 were businesses, 16 were garage, and 8 were residential. Robberies have a mixture of a couple street robberies and also business robberies. No real trends with any of those.
Officer Felix, as far as burglaries and robberies, could we just go over some crime tips that could probably be helped with maybe the open garage doors and maybe better things that people could maybe do to make it a little less chance of being victimized of a robbery?
A couple of things. If we go back to robberies, is being aware of your surroundings. We see a lot of times people are really focused on their cell phone and not paying attention of what's going on around them. So again, just picking your head up and looking to see what's going on. Just as the one incident we had there where the people were sitting in the vehicle, luckily that they seen that suspect walking up. Somebody looked in a mirror and seen that suspect pulling out a firearm, and they were able to get out of there before anybody was hurt or became a victim of that crime. Burglaries, again, this is the time of season, unfortunately, we start to get our snow blowers ready, and we recommend that if you have a snow blower, lawnmower, any other items, bicycles in your garage, make sure your garage is locked. Before you pull away, make sure your overhead door is going down. Also record your items, get serial numbers off of your snowblowers, lawnmowers, and register your bike. We have what's called the bikeindex.org that we like to promote. You can go onto the City of Milwaukee's webpage, go onto the Police Department tab, and there's a quick link to put information down about your bike. This is kind of a site, it's kind of, we would say, Facebook for your bike. So it's something that's not monitored by the police department, but if there is an incident, you could report it to the community. Your bike was lost, stolen. We keep track of that by just being part of that site, and we have a lot of good records of getting people's bikes back. We actually mentioned that in our last crime and safety meeting where we had some success to getting victims their bikes back. So again, quick link on the Milwaukee Police Department, bikeindex.org. Thefts, non-vehicle related, 61 reported throughout the district, and this is a mixture of, again, thefts. Sometimes we're seeing that a lot of these are package thefts, packages being left on a front stoop, and unfortunately they're taken. Also, again, it would be a theft from a business or, again, a bicycle theft. Thefts from vehicles, between that time period, we had 45 reported, and that was scattered out throughout that squad area. One thing that we like to stress on is not leaving any items of value in your vehicle in plain view. Laptops, any other items. Also firearms. We've been finding a lot of firearms are taken from vehicles. We did have a little trend of vehicles being broken into in one of our squad areas and firearms being stolen. We did take 2 people into custody and are working on that case right now. Squad 130's area. It's the Lower East Side. Sergeant Sadowski mentioned the boundaries on that. Again, you can see there's a couple little clusters in the area. Aggravated assaults. We had one reported in the Brady Street area. Victim was on the street. Suspect displayed a firearm. I'm sorry, I got that under the aggravated assaults. That should be a robbery. Sorry. Brady Street area, we did have a couple on the Brady Street area. The victims of that were walking out of a business. One of the victims felt pain to the arm and noticed that they were struck by gunfire. Also, 2 other victims were struck in the area by gunfire. That case is still open and pending. In the 1300 block of Brady Street, we had 2 females that engaged in a physical fight. They sustained injuries, so that was reported there, and that's in that little cluster there also. We did have another fight in that area, a physical fight, where the suspect pushed the victim down to the ground, causing the victim to gain injury to the head. These are known actors in these incidences. Also on Brady and Arlington there, we have where another victim was walking to their car and was struck by gunfire. Auto thefts for this time period in Squad 130's area, we had 27 reported. Out of the 27, 7 of these auto thefts were taken with key. Burglaries in Squad 130's area, 18 reported, and again, that's a mixture of residential, business, and garage. Robberies in Squad 130's area, 14 reported. No real trends with the robberies. Again, this is just a crime of opportunity. And thefts reported in Squad 130's area. The clusters that you see are where some of our local businesses are in this squad area, and these are non-vehicle related. 65 reported for this time period. Thefts from vehicle. Again, some clusters of these thefts that are occurring. If you notice the area, that is where we have a lot of businesses in that area, and finding that people are leaving items in their vehicles. So please, again, do not leave anything of value in your vehicle. 88 reported for that time period.
Sure, and just to touch on that, Officer Felix, if we're looking where this actual cluster is, right around Brady and Cass, so it was identified that we were having a large amount of cars that were broken into, some of them in which firearms were taken, so that became very concerning. Captain Campbell, who had spoke shortly before, immediately wanted more patrol officers on an initiative to try to apprehend the people that were responsible for that. For about a 2-week period, especially during our overnight hours, we dedicated a lot of officers actually to try to get those people in custody. While doing that, it resulted in multiple arrests for armed robbery, for burglary, multiple vehicle pursuits where nobody was injured, so that's first and foremost good. Where subject was taken into custody for an unrelated offense other than fleeing from officers. But just as recently as 2 days ago, the Milwaukee Police Department did make 2 apprehensions of people that sound like they could very well be responsible for those actual thefts in that area. So I just want everybody to know, when you do see these type of clusters, that's something that we identify. We know what the problem is. We read through the reports, and we understand that it might take more police service in that area to combat that problem. And it was absolutely successful. When we did 2 weeks in a row of officers working diligently in that area, it resulted in really good arrests. The numbers of thefts did dwindle, but were still occurring from time to time. So while staffing permitted, we tried to make sure that we were still monitoring that area. And then ultimately it did result in multiple people being arrested for what we believe to be those offenses.
Squad 140's area, Juno Town area. Aggravated assaults for the time period there, 28 reported. Again, when we look at these aggravated assaults, a lot of these are known actors. A lot of them fall under the domestic violence category. Auto thefts, we have 48 reported. In that squad area, again, it's scattered out throughout the squad area. Out of the 48 reported auto thefts, 19 were taken with keys.
That's only a number that we would expect is going to go up coming into the winter months. So we just, regardless of what area you feel, or if you don't see anybody, we can't stress enough that please turn the vehicle off if you're going inside to grab the cup of coffee that you forgot. Just because, once again, auto thefts are one of the largest crime of opportunities. It's easy, it's accessible, and it works. So we definitely ask that people be conscious when going into gas stations, when parked in their driveway. I know the winter months are cold, and maybe not everybody has a remote start, but it's definitely not worth then being a victim of an auto theft. So just as we're heading in now to October, and unfortunately, Wisconsin starts to flex its muscles with the cold weather. Just something we need to ask everyone to be cognizant of, please.
Burglaries, we have 48 reported. Again, this is scattered out, and it's a mixture of business, residential, and garage burglaries. Robberies in this area.
Like 15?
So nothing stands out in the squad area as a trend. But as we're on the topic of robberies, we did have one reported where the victim met somebody online and was getting into a vehicle they believe was an Uber, was confronted by a suspect with a gun and robbed. So be mindful who you are chatting with online and planning on meeting. Do your research and let others know where you're going to be and who you plan on being with. And also getting into vehicles that you may believe is an Uber, make sure it is the vehicle that you're expecting. Thefts non-vehicle related, at 95 reported for this time period in Squad 140's area. Again, small clusters in some areas and pretty spread out in the 140's area. Nothing stands out regarding trends. Thefts from vehicles, 118 reported from July 1st to this month on the 28th. And you see some clusters of thefts from vehicles, and these are areas where we do have lots of businesses. So here's a breakdown, and we'll look at the column on the right year-to-date changes. The red areas are what we'll focus on. We are up 200% on homicides. It sounds like a lot. One is a lot, but we did have 3 reported. One recently, which is an open case that occurred on Brady and Holton. The department's still working on that. One that was earlier this year, or earlier in July, that was on the lakefront, and that was, again, 2 known people. Aggravated assaults were down 9% year-to-date. Rapes, unfortunately, were up 9%. And when we get to rapes, that is sometimes known suspects to the victim. We don't have a serial raper running around in District 1. Robberies were down 9%, and burglaries down 7% year-to-date. Thefts down 5%. Motor vehicle thefts were up 3%. This time last year, we're at 212, we're at 219. And just like Sergeant Sadowski said, we see at this time of year where they start to go up. Unfortunately, people are leaving their cars running to warm them up. Please do not do that. Arson, we're up 60%.
Down.
I'm sorry,
Down.
down. Sorry about that. That's in green. So, aggravated assaults, I guess I'll go with that, with firearms, 20% down, and armed robberies, firearms, were down 22%. Here's a contact list of our beat officers at District 1 and phone numbers for their cell phones that they carry. I would stress on that, if you're in need of police service, please call the non-emergency, which is 933-4444, or 911 if it is an emergency. Above, Captain Campbell's information, phone number and email, and our lieutenants, and Sergeant Sadowski, and myself and ADA Kelly Hedge. So right now, the only lieutenant we have is Lieutenant Brousseau, which is a late shift lieutenant. Our next crime and safety meeting is scheduled for January 6th. Hopefully, we can do it live, but it's unsure of right now. We did have our partners at the Urban Ecology Center, Riverside, that was allowing us to host these meetings for 2020 at their lovely location, but due to COVID restrictions, we're unable to do this live. Usually these meetings are face-to-face, open to the community where we can answer your questions or concerns. But feel free to use that contact list to contact either Sergeant Sadowski, ADA Kelly Hedge, or myself, and we can answer your questions or concerns.
Thank you, Carlos. So overall, I just want to kind of touch on some of the numbers that we had observed before. Obviously, more than 0 homicides is unacceptable. But as a district as a whole, I think overall, the biggest way we measure is overall crime, what it looks like in all those areas. And as you can see, under Captain Campbell, we have went down pretty much across the board in most of our numbers, and that's been identifying areas that need extra policing, making sure that we understand the different community complaints that are actually occurring, that they're being resourced properly through Carlos and I. That allows me to make sure that our beat officers are able to engage in those type of things, identifying what type of cases, crimes are being committed, and then having such a great ADA like Kelly Hedge on board to review those cases and understand how vital and important it is to the community for that person who might habitually be victimizing somebody who's, and very often, as you see a lot of the dots on the map, unfortunately, a lot of times they're occurring from the same people. So you might see 10, 15 dots that could be the same person that's responsible for it, and that's why it's so important that we continue to get those calls for service. We continue to identify those types of issues. That way we are holding he or she accountable for their actions and who they are victimizing in the district. A couple things that we have going on last year, over the course of last year. The 794 Homeless Encampment was definitely a hot topic around 6th and Clybourne. Obviously, as you can see from the dedicated work from a lot of different entities last year, that is no longer a primary concern, as we have very few people that are still occupying anywhere near in that area. If any of you have noticed, construction has started. There will be a water treatment area that's going to be going on in that area, as well as a couple different ideas. But that process of how can we better utilize this space, how can we beautify downtown in an area that was not being used properly, how can we do it that the community can all use it and enjoy it? So that construction is actually starting. So that's some of the things that are going on downtown now that I just wanted to relay to you. As Officer Felix had mentioned earlier with the bike index, we highly recommend it. We find it to be successful. Just recently there was a person whose bike was stolen in Delaware, and because of the bike index and great work by a District 5 officer, we were able to get that person back their bike and continue working on the people who actually were responsible for committing that crime. So we highly recommend it. It's just, and it's not only with bike index, great recommendation would be for any of your property, as Officer Felix was touching on. Understand that serial number that's on your television. Know what the serial number is on your lawnmower or your snowblower. It's just we do come in contact with individuals who might be possessing that stolen property, might not have a good explanation on how they came across that property, but as law enforcement, it limits us to being able to identify that it was stolen in a crime and it was in fact yours, and to get it back to you. So we highly recommend that you do keep a log. In today's era with smartphones, we could take pictures of those serial numbers, have it stored right in the cloud, and have immediate access for law enforcement, because that's what ultimately we're here for, is making sure that if you've been victimized, how we can help. And a lot of times, especially in District 1, where property is such a thing that people are victimized of, we do recover these things, and we would love to get them back to you, whether it's a bike, a snowblower, a vehicle. So having that information handy for us is really helpful. Once again, yes, it's unfortunate that we continue to have to meet virtually, but on the other hand, it's good that we're still communicating with each other, whether it's our neighborhood meetings where we're seeing each other on Zoom, or at least you're seeing our faces, you know that we're still accessible here for you. We want to hear your concerns. We want to continue working with you. And throughout, with everything going on in the world today, we definitely feel we will get past. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel for the pandemic to end, where we can maybe get back to that sense of normalcy with each other, and we very much look forward to it. Kelly, Carlos, is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
just want to add something.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm very thankful that Sergeant Sadowski brought up the encampment, as well as a bike index. And yes, District 5 officer was able to return a bike that was recovered during one of these bike thefts, which was excellent work. And again, that's collaboration between all districts and information sharing. Now Captain Litsky, he was a lieutenant at the time, but now he's Captain Tim Litsky, he developed this Milwaukee Bike Theft Reduction Initiative. So we work with all of the districts as well as other suburban partners in identifying individuals that are continuing to steal bikes. And then I review that case or cases and then proceed from there. So it's excellent work by all law enforcement agencies. The encampment that Sergeant Sadowski also discussed, we did have 120 tents last year. Out of those 120 tents, there was approximately 90 homeless individuals. And if you go over to the underpass at 794, you will see that there are no tents. And that is collaboration between different stakeholders with Housing First, community advocates, Milwaukee Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, State Patrol, the Department of Transportation. We do have conference calls bi-weekly and discuss any trends we see. And Beth Lapham with Housing First is our homeless outreach person, and she goes out and makes contact with individuals who are homeless. She tries to get them into shelter and or housing. We also have an officer designated by Sergeant Sadowski to go and do checks, and then we share information and try to get these people in a place of safety. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, by all means, reach out to the district. It is something that we will continue to maintain and work on, and I am proud of the work that all of these community groups have done to help us get these good results. Thank you.
And thank you again to Kelly as our guest speaker, Captain Campbell, Sergeant Sadowski. If you have, again, any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us. If you need information on something or you believe that this is something you'd like to hear at a next meeting, if it's something related to the community or partners we work with, we'll try to get those people in to share that information with you. Please share this link with your neighbors, and again, give us a call or email if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you.